and welcome to Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast. We are your hosts, Cody Norman.
And Logan Frye, paralysis recovery specialist at the Perfect Step, also known as TPS.
We are not doctors and are not prescribing anything, as this podcast is for informational purposes and should not be considered legal advice.
We are, however, sharing knowledge and experience that we have gained from working for years with clients in the paralysis community.
The guests on this podcast will include either experts in their respective fields or individuals sharing their unique experiences with paralysis.
Suggestions and advice that we share may affect each person differently, as not one injury or diagnosis is the exact same.
We are hopeful that the outreach of this podcast will allow us to give help and guidance for individuals suffering from paralysis.
We understand that this spread of knowledge is important and takes an entire community coming together.
On today's episode, we had on Clayton Roberts, a young man who dedicated his entire life to becoming a professional dirt bike rider before being a part of a horrific accident in the beginning of 2024.
On this episode, we covered adaptive training strategies and techniques, mental toughness due to injury, training pre and post injury, as well as community and support. Stay tuned on Clayton's Pathways to Healing. Welcome back to Pathways to Healing. On today's episode, we have on Clayton Roberts.
How's it going, guys?
It's going good. How are you?
Pretty good. Excited to be on.
Good to have you on, man. Thanks for being on. Clayton, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a backstory about your growing up life, where you're from, and how you got into professional dirt bike riding.
So I grew up racing, riding my whole life. I started racing dirt bikes. I started riding dirt bikes at 3.5 in the backyard with training wheels, and then quickly ditched the training wheels and moved on to racing dirt bikes at 4 years old. And that was from day one. It was the dream and what I wanted to do and what I loved. And I mean, I grew up playing all other sports as well. Anything competitive, I was all for it, but dirt bikes always had my heart. So that was the main priority. And I slowly transitioned. I graduated high school, got a job, and started racing full time. That was my main focus. And in 2020, I started racing professionally, and started off just basic pro, just trying to find my feet basically in the class, and started to progress. And 2023 was my best year racing, and then 2024 ended up here on the podcast with you guys.
All right, so how old were you when you were officially considered a pro?
2020, I turned 18 and did my first pro race at 18.
18.
And 22 now.
Going through high school, did you is that something your goal pretty much the whole time you've been riding was wanting to be a pro?
Yeah. I mean, you could go back. My family has papers from, kindergarten to 5th grade when you're first learning to ride about what you wanted to be when you grow up, and it's every single one you go and look back on it. So I want to race dirt bikes. I want to race dirt bikes. I want to be a professional. So
Yeah.
that was what I put my focus into. That was where my passion was, and that was what I was gonna do. I was gonna make it happen.
Where's that come from? Is that like your dad, family later on in the past, or where's that come from?
Yeah, my dad's grandpa and my grandpa both rode. Kind of nothing outrageous. Just rode dirt bikes and enjoyed it. And then my dad started racing when he was 25 and had me at 24. So it was all I knew, and those dirt bikes in the garage. And I got pictures on a dirt bike as a baby. So my dad was really into it as well when he had just gotten into it, and then I was full bore with him. So.
What class were you?
Well, when I was younger, I was just mainly racing age classes. So all the way up to basically like when I was 16, those age classes all the way up until about 16, and then I would race the expert class and then transition to pro in 2020.
So injured on March 24th, 2024, correct? So
Yep.
Not super long ago, but you're somebody that already has a lot of independence. You're driving already. You have
Sure.
hand controls in your truck. You're really nice Ford Maverick outside, and you get a lot of confidence on that thing. Really sweet. So when did you get into the steps of driving, of being more independent, and what did that look like for you?
For me, it was right away. Like I remember being in the hospital in Idaho when I got hurt and telling my dad and my mom and everyone that I want to get out of here. I want to get home. I want to get to the gym and get strong and throw this wheelchair around and get to driving. Like I was ready to move forward and make something happen because I wanted to be back independent. Like I've always been really independent and wanted to do my own thing and lay my own path and just be on my own if I could. So it was very quick that I was very adamant about getting that sorted out. So it was cool that I was able to get a truck and get hand controls in about 2 months in.
Mm-hmm.
Started with some portable hand controls and then got a fixed mounted set and been driving since and stoked on it.
I actually want to make you backtrack a little bit. Can you talk us through a little bit, as much as you're comfortable with, about your accident and how it went down and the things you were kind of just telling us about?
it was the second round of the championship. 2023, I raced the Pro 250 class, and it was my best year ever. I went undefeated. I won every race. I had a great year. Had a bunch of success in other big races, and then moved up to the Open Pro class. I had a manufacturer's support contract with Gas, and round one, I had a wasn't the best round for me. I had broken a finger, so I came off surgery. And round two, I was planning to come out swinging, and I'd been doing a lot of training. I had tons of time on the bike. I felt better than ever. I'd been doing a ton of suspension testing and super confident with my bike setup, and knew I was going to be a good day for me. And I was looking forward to it. And so it was a mass start when the banner dropped and everyone took off. My goal was to get to the front, and I was not going to let off. And I had walked the start and knew that I was good to go. And I just got an unfortunate kick and went over the bars on the bike, and ended up knocking myself out. Was T11 burst fractured, broke some ribs, tore a ligament in this shoulder, and yeah, obviously a good concussion. I cracked my helmet. It did its job. I didn't have a brain injury, so super thankful for that, and also super thankful that I'm a low-level injury because it's been able to help with keeping a lot of independence now.
Absolutely.
That was in Murphy, Idaho, correct?
Yeah, I was up in Murphy, Idaho, and then I got life flighted to Boise to St. Alphonsus Hospital and spent about 4 or 5 days in ICU, and then got transferred to a step-down unit and stayed there for about a week and a half total stay in Idaho, and then took a med flight to Casa Colina and spent 3 weeks at Casa Colina and learned a lot there. And from there, went home and started making it happen at home.
And when you use a lot of the dirt bike terminology,
Yeah.
and so for people who don't understand, can you talk a little bit about the mass start and
Yeah.
the pathway and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so this type of racing I was doing, the National Hare and Hound Championship, this race was they're two 40-mile loops with a pit in the middle for fuel or water or whatever you want to get, goggles. It was a 5-row start. The first row is all pros only, and it's a mass start. Everyone's bikes are off, banner drops, and it's go time for just the first row. And so everyone takes off at once, mass start, and it funnels down. This bomb run is what they call the start stretch. It was about a mile and a half-ish. And yeah, walk only. So I did my homework and walked it.
So when you say walk only, you were telling us that in California races, the bomb start, so the first mile and a half of the race, you can actually drive that as a prep, and you can get used to, the bumps, the cricks,
Yeah,
the little
for sure.
crevices, that type of stuff.
You get to burn in your line. You get to see where you want to go, and obviously it's a lot different
But when you go out of state, and is it just an out of state thing?
Yeah, for that series, all the out of state rounds. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is. I don't know. Maybe permitting. I'm not sure, but all the out of state rounds were walk only, so I only got to walk that as opposed to riding it, and maybe lines getting burned in, and maybe have gone slower the first time through that section, etc.
So do you think that's a California thing where only California races the people are allowed to start? Like for an Idaho race, or people from out Idaho, are they allowed to ride it, or is it just?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think most of any series in those out of state rounds, I don't think you're allowed to. I know like the California rounds are usually 2-day events where the youth racing is on Saturday and the day race or the adult race is on Sunday, and the out of state rounds for the series I was racing is usually 1 day. I don't know if that has something to do with it, because the mornings when we would get to practice the start, I don't know if that has something to do. I'm not really sure exactly.
So I'm a little ignorant when it comes to the racing scene, especially when it comes to dirt bikes. Do you think that has an effect on the track itself when, the kids are going the day before and they're riding and creating a path for you? Do you think that has an effect on how you guys race when you're a professional?
So most of the time, majority of the loop is different, but we do end up sharing sections of common course. Like we'll do usually the loop youth races are about 8 to 10 miles long, and the adult races are 2 40-mile loops, and we'll come back in on where the youth raced, and it is really rough. Like you can tell it's gnarly after the youth kids had done all their laps and used. So, but usually the start in that is 2 separate starts, so it doesn't change it as much. But when you can pre-ride bomb run, there's a lot more lines.
You kind of know what you're
you get
getting
an
yourself
idea,
into.
and yeah, for sure.
You said you set your line in the California races, but this one you couldn't set your line. So how was that different for you in the Idaho race, but compared to walking it versus setting it and riding it, being able to get your bike on that line?
Yeah, it's just different because our desert around here is a lot more creosote bushes and a little bit more open, where all the out of state rounds are real like sagebrush and dense bushes, and there's nothing really burned in. It is nice when you can pre-ride something and burn in a trail basically and make it a trail. You feel a little more
Confident.
a little safer with what you're working with. But
Right.
when you walk it, since I had so much experience being walk only, it usually wasn't too big a deal. Just and even if I got to pre-ride this bomb, not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean I would have been able to pull it off, but just kind of unfortunate situation.
And what was that race called? There's AMA National Hare, correct?
Yeah, AMA National Hare and Hound was the national series I was racing.
Okay. How many times have you raced that actual event?
So this year the whole series was 6-round series. I'd been to Murphy, Idaho. I think this was my third time at that same venue, and I'd used that same start in 2022. I had that same exact start they used and worked out well then. But I was pretty familiar with the land we were in, and I really enjoyed the races prior years.
Gotcha. So Murphy's where you went to right after you got injured, and then you went to Boise, Idaho, you said, and then you went to Casa Colina after that.
Yep.
Can you tell us the differences between that Boise, Idaho experience and then versus Casa Colina as soon as you got there?
So I want you to remember his question, but you told me the story earlier about how your trip from Idaho to back to California was a little crazy.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that, and then we'll go back to Logan's question?
Yeah. So, man, it was a whole nightmare I stayed in the hospital in Idaho for longer than I needed to, trying to sort out the flight home because I needed technically to have Casa Colina covered by insurance. I needed to have a med nurse with me on the flight and be under medical attention versus flying home on like a commercial airline. It wasn't going to end up being covered. So I stayed in the hospital longer than I needed to. Finally, everything works out and I'm finally able to fly out of there. And it's about 9 o'clock at night. They come in and pick me up, put me on a gurney. I get driven in an ambulance over to the airport. I sit in the back of the ambulance for, 2 hours waiting for the snow and the runway to be clear because it was pretty rough conditions and rough weather. I was laying in the back of the ambulance on this gurney, getting a bit frustrated, wanting to go to sleep. We finally get a clear opening. We get on the plane. They're kind of in a hurry.
How big was the plane?
It was a small little Learjet, so I could see the pilots up front. There was like room for me on the side of my gurney. My girlfriend's with me, and then 2 nurses, and that was about it. And then some bags in the back. So it was really small, and you can feel a lot going on. Oh. And so, it was all good, but the weather didn't make conditions any better. Yeah. So once we got on the plane, we finally go to take off. They de-ice the runway. They de-ice the plane. I guess the runway didn't get properly de-iced. We get up into the air, and they're trying to re-vacuum seal the door because the landing gear is not retracting. They're trying to figure it out. There's all these alarms going off. I hear all the pilots playing, like because I can with the pilots, I'm like, I can hear all the noises. I can hear all the beeping, the going on, like they're talking back and forth. And, you start getting a little nervous, like what's going on? Yeah. Next thing you know, they let us know the landing gear is not retracting. So they flew past a flight tower to confirm that the landing gear was still down. We were good to have an emergency landing back at the same airport. I sat in the plane, got put back in an ambulance, still on the same gurney that I've been on, back to the hospital. Luckily, I got my same room back because I was just going to be put in the ER because my room had already been given up. Thankfully, it was still able to go back to me, got put back in my same room, back 4 a.m, left at 9, on the gurney, waiting around this whole time, back in the room at 4 a.m, slept for about 3-4 hours, and then got woken up again when they came in to take us for round 2 to try again. Now that the weather was clear. Now it was a successful flight, but I was a little nervous heading out for sure.
Oh, I bet.
I was a little uncertain about what was going on. I was going to be okay with driving if it was an option.
Wow. So, I couldn't imagine.
But back to your question about Idaho versus Casa Colina. Yeah. It was super cool when I was in Idaho. There was a lot of great physical therapists and occupational therapists as well. They actually got me started on really basic rehab and stuff right away. Like I remember trying to sit up at the edge of the bed in Idaho, using a slide board, trying to transfer, going into their gym. They had a gym with like a big open table, kind of like we have here, and working on balance training, tossing balls back and forth. Like I had a really quick start on it. And so I thought I didn't know any different, but looking back, I think that was super cool that I was able to get a jump start super early. So I felt like it did me really well coming to Casa Colina. I already had a good idea how to transfer. I was on a slide board still when I got to Casa Colina, but I was able to make quick progress because I had learned a lot. They taught me a lot of the basics and how to move, where to put your head, where to put aim your butt, so everything is a fluid motion. So I was really thankful for that Idaho experience and all the physical therapists and nurses there that had taught me a lot, and it really prepared me for coming to Casa Colina. And then we just basically built off that coming into Casa, and then I was prepared when I came here to start working on recovery.
Yeah. Can you break down a little bit about what that felt like for you, being able to learn to transfer? Can you break that down? Yeah,
so when I first got hurt and I was in the hospital bed, the first time I sat up, I don't even know what to say besides I was tripping. I was like, it felt like I was sitting on just a ball. Like I couldn't feel my butt. I didn't know what was going on. Just super, super unsteady and could not take a hand off the bench. Like I was death gripping, and it was not easy. I knew it would get easier, of course. You have to learn like anything, but
Right.
it was super, super crazy feeling that not having connection to the lower half of your body and trying to balance. 6 months out of my injury, I'm super thankful how much easier it's gotten to balance, and it's become second nature, kind of like prior to just naturally balance. But I still don't have any feeling to my butt. It's a whole new learning curve. I'm sure my family that watched me too see me struggle, and it's crazy looking watching me be all unsteady and not be able to do anything and not transfer and using the slide board. And then it was a good feeling being able to graduate from the slide board, and which I was a little stubborn too, wanting to get rid of it. And then now I'm at a point where if I'm going to use a slide board, it's going to have to be a pretty long 2x6. If I can't clear it, it's going to have to be a seriously long slide board if I'm using the slide board now, because I can make some good gaps now.
When did you rid of the slide board? At what point in time?
It was at my stay at Casa Colina, probably about a week and a half into Casa Colina. I'd say it was probably like 3 weeks after my injury. Really basic stuff, like wheelchair right next to the bed at the perfect height, like not a big gap. I learned the perfect setup with my feet, how to place your feet so you don't get tangled up, get in your way, and made it happen like that. So that was cool. And then when I got home, it even got like my bathroom setup wasn't the most wheelchair accessible prior, and it's still not, but a couple big transfers and I make it happen. So it's cool that I've been able to still use all the same stuff I was using before, and not many modifications besides a ramp into the door, really.
Awesome.
And then it's like just some basic padded seats and stuff for showering. And
Did you feel like you lost any upper extremity strength?
yeah, definitely after I got hurt with having broken some ribs, and I broke this collarbone, had surgery, and then a ligament in the shoulder. My left shoulder still to this day bugs me, like not day-to-day stuff, but when I go to the gym, it really limits me, and it definitely frustrates me at times. But being 6 months out, I've tried to really work on building upper body strength, and now I feel like I'm at a point where I'm stronger than I was as far as my upper extremities, which is cool. And I've also now been able to train a little bit differently because I'm not so focused on racing a dirt bike. So my training routine and what I do for lifting weights and stuff has been cool to kind of change it up and see a different side of things.
The Be Perfect Foundation is not just a name, it's a promise. A promise to individuals living with paralysis that they are not alone in their journey. Founded by Hal Hargrave Jr. in 2007, after his own life-altering accident, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to providing direct financial and emotional aid. Inspired by a quote from the movie Friday Night Lights, we believe that being perfect is about doing everything you can, especially for yourself, your family, and your friends. With nearly $10 million raised and a 100% volunteer staff, your support goes directly to those in need. We assist with medical supplies, wheelchairs, home adaptations, and exercise-based therapy programs. Our board of directors receives no salary, ensuring that almost every dollar donated makes a real impact. Visit BePerfectFoundation.org to donate or learn how you can get involved. The Be Perfect Foundation, changing perceptions daily.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your training and what that looked like before your injury versus now after? Because I'm sure there was a lot that went into it to get you ready for a race.
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually working full time also. I worked construction with my dad. He was a general contractor, or is a general contractor. And so I was working full time, and training wasn't frequent as I would have liked, but I tried to ride as much as I can, get on the bike training. A lot of times I'd go to the gym, do the rower, a lot of core exercises. Like core is a big part of racing, balance. And so I did a lot of running. I grew up running cross country and track, so I've always been a runner, a little bit of pedaling. Like I've done triathlons and stuff. And so just a lot of different cross training, go to the pool occasionally and swim. And I think what could have benefited me now looking back would have been more weight training. Like I didn't do as much weight training as I would have liked looking back, but I was just still learning, what to do and what I needed to be the best I could.
Absolutely. How about now? What's the difference now versus then? I mean, you come to TPS obviously, but what are some things you do at the gym now?
So I got started on the gym right away. I had got home from Casa Colina, and within the first week I started going to the gym with my brother and trying to just learn what I can do and what I was capable of, and figuring it out. So now I do a lot of the machines. I transfer onto the machines, and some of those seats can be a little bit iffy. They're not the most friendly to transfer, but I've been figuring it out. And so it's been cool. Do a lot of cable stuff as long as they're not too high up for me to reach, or I have someone help me out. And then, just still learning really every time I go. I start learning, like bringing stuff to tie myself to benches and trying to bench stuff, do bench pressing, and just figuring it out. And it's always helpful. It's really hard to have a really productive day at the gym by yourself. Just even something like trying to put a 45-pound plate on a machine with minimal strength and core, like I can get it up, but it takes so much precision to like commit to getting it on where it needs to go. Like the lighter weights are no big deal, but it's just much easier if I can have someone with me to make it a little bit
Definitely.
more.
Okay, so now transitioning into, your training that you do at the Perfect Step, how would you say those things are different? And can you kind of give the audience a background of what your training is like at the Perfect Step?
Yeah, so I've been enjoying coming to the Perfect Step. It's really good to keep my legs moving and kind of be the leg day that I don't get to do at the gym myself because I'm just not able at the moment. But I enjoy getting my legs moving. I notice a big difference, say, getting in and out of my truck. Like I can tell when I come to the Perfect Step, my legs are fatigued after, and my legs feel like they've been worked out and they're loose and really flexible again. And it's what I need to work on recovery. So I enjoy here when I come here, just loosening my body up, moving my legs, and just the environment here is super good and positive. So it's been really, really good.
Love that. Are there any particular exercises that are your favorite right now that you're doing at TPS?
Yeah, I've been enjoying. We did the skier today. That was good. That's more like my upper body, but while I'm standing, be productive, doing two things at once. But I enjoy just all the table work, just trying to see what I can do and moving my legs for the most part on my own with some assistance and just seeing the progress every
How's your
week. And
progress been?
it's been good. So I started out when I first got hurt, like day one. I think I was more around my belly button level, and I've now I'm about at my waistline, so it's been good, and I've been able to keep the core I had because I feel like I had a relatively strong core from my background with racing. So I've been able to keep that and try to build off of it, and it helps with kind of getting some hip flexion going and start working on bringing my knees up and that type of thing. So I've been just trying to build off that and keep moving lower and lower in the feeling and movement.
Now, you're obviously, we're professional dirt bike riders, so you have that athlete mentality. Can you talk about how that athlete mentality kind of coincides with the training that you've been able to do, both at the gym and at the Perfect Step?
Yeah. Well, like you said, with my background, I've just always wanted to be the best at what I was doing and always been super, super competitive. So nothing changed there, Just I'm sitting in a chair doesn't mean my mentality is any different with anything. So I just want to get after it and be the best I can and still be an athlete in the chair. And yeah, all I can say is I just like to make things happen and figure it out. So we'll make it happen and get the job done.
Where does that competitive nature come from? Does that come from family? Is that from just being an athlete your whole life? Or where do you feel like that is originated
Making sure
from?
you have to beat your little brother at everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, a family for sure. My dad's competitive, and so it's in the blood.
Yep.
And my mom, she's competitive at certain things.
Nice.
And then, yeah, just being an athlete growing up, I mean, it didn't matter if it was multiplication sheet in math class, I wanted to win. So it's just been in my blood since day one, and I'm competitive at anything. If someone passes me driving down the street, I'm like, I think they want to race.
That's cool. I love it. And I have a question for you about maybe other people that are trying to get back into the gym recently, right? So maybe they got injured a few months ago, or maybe it's 6 months to a year into the injury, and they're trying to get back into the gym and be more independent themselves. What are some tips and tricks you have for them to be able to get back into the gym?
I'd say the number one thing is just don't be afraid. It's a little bit intimidating feeling when you go into the gym, and especially I went going to the same gym I was at prior to being hurt, and so people want to ask questions and they see you prior able body walking in, and then the next time they see me and I'm in a wheelchair. But everyone wants to help. I've had multiple people come up to me and offer help. If I need help, come up and ask them. They say I don't want to be rude, but I'm here if you need help. If you need to grab something, I've had people come up and reach something for me they see I'm struggling with. So I'd say just don't be afraid and just get after it and accept that you're still able to do a lot and you can still better yourself at the gym and just continue doing what you were doing before.
I love it.
And I love that you talk about help. Something you kind of mentioned to me was road to recovery and all the help that you've been able to receive from them. Can you give us a little bit of background about them and how you came in contact with them and the things that they've been able to do for you?
Yeah, Road to Recovery has been a super helpful resource. The people over there have just Mike Young at Road to Recovery, he's been able to help with all the resources and people I need, contacts, wheelchair setup. I mean, you name it. Got any question I have about anything related, the Road to Recovery people know what to do, and they we also have a big following, so they're able to help me raise money and cover costs of things that might have been a little bit more stressful without their help. So it's been super helpful, and I'm thankful for those people there and that they were able to take me in and help me out with the situation.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that have gone through a similar process through Road to Recovery that you've spoken to? Clients or people that have also had a SCI?
Yeah, I've met people now since my injury. No one that I knew prior to my injury that went through Road to Recovery. I shouldn't say that. I knew of athletes. Knew of the program, and I'd seen people that gotten hurt and posted on the Road to Recovery page, but I had never met anyone. And now that I'm part of that group in Road to Recovery, I've been meeting a lot more people and people in my situation or even different injuries that just growing friends and meeting a lot of new people and stuff now that I'm been a part of that group.
Also, you knew about them prior to the injury?
Yeah, they're a pretty big nonprofit, and they work with athletes. They're specifically for dirt bike racing professional athletes that get hurt and need help in situations like that. And so, it's been cool that something's dedicated to dirt bike racers that can come through and help when in need of a big injury and some stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've been following Road to Recovery for quite a while now, and I think actually when they posted your injury, I saw you when they posted you, and I was like, man, that's crazy. And I always see all the stories on there. I kind of thought in my mind, like, is this person going to be a client one day, maybe? And here you are. It's crazy.
Yeah, I got directed over here to you guys, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, 6 months later, you said?
Yeah, it took a little bit to get stuff situated. I needed to get a bone density scan first, and so it's just a little bit of a process insurance wise till I can get here, but I'm here and we're rolling, so it's good.
But I think it's a funny story how, the way he found the perfect step wasn't even from Road to Recovery.
No.
Yeah, I heard about it through Road to Recovery, but I was at the Walmart in Parker. I was up at the river, and Hal's parents, they I was rolling down the aisle, and they said, "Hey, nice wheelchair." I started talking to them, and they said, "Yeah, we own the perfect step." And I'm like, "Oh wow, I'll be there in a bit," and then here we are.
That's so crazy.
A small world for sure.
Did you contact Mike Young after that experience? Did they talk anything about Mike Young?
Yeah, so I told them that I met him, that I knew Mike Young, and that's who kind of directed me this way.
Yeah.
And they knew Mike, and it was just a whole small world. Told Mike about it, and it was super cool. It was kind of funny at the same time.
So wild. What were you doing? So Casa Colina was what you're doing currently. Was there any other exercise-based therapy rehab centers that you're going to outside of Casa Colina before this?
No, I went Casa Colina and home, and then just started my own stuff at the gym and trying to stretch here and there, trying to be proactive about my health a little bit and keep loose, and then just straight to here.
Are you still at Casa right now currently too? Or
no, I haven't been to Casa. I went back for one of their SCI groups, their spinal cord rehab groups they have. All the patients that are currently at Casa, like I was in that group when I got hurt. I went and visited, and the Triumph Foundation comes in and they talk about it and talk about life after injury and what's still capable and what you can do. And so I thought that was cool. And so I worked out one of the days. I was able to stop by there as well and talk to all the current patients at Casa Colina that are fresh injuries and just kind of give them a little bit insight about what I've been able to do since my injury and how it's not the end of the world and you can still do a lot, and don't be afraid when you're back at home.
So as somebody who, you graduated from a PT, OT program, and you were doing stuff on your own, going to the gym, can you kind of describe what you were doing with your lower extremities while you were just going to the gym versus what you're able to do now, and kind of your experience about how maybe the perfect step has been able to help with that component of the recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the gym, like when I was at Casa Colina, they have bikes and stuff, hand cycle bikes that move your legs for you, but you don't see that type of equipment at a regular gym. So I had stopped by a different gym one day and they had an assault bike, and I transferred up onto that and put my feet on the pedals, and I was moving with my arms and getting my legs to move, but that was about the extent of it. I mean, I didn't know what else to do. So that was really it, besides just transferring and stretching my legs out, and maybe some family helping me do some stretches so I can get a little bit better of a stretch. But other than that, I didn't really have much I could do. I didn't know where to go or what to do, or I was trying to look into equipment. I got donated a standing frame, so that was helpful. So I have a standing frame at home to keep up on that. But there's not much. So the perfect step was being able to fill that void in therapy that I need.
Even to find CPS, if you never maybe came across CPS or didn't ever meet Hal's parents at the Walmart in Parker, Arizona, or didn't know Mike Young, where do you think you'd be right now?
I'd just be at the gym working my upper body and not really be able to make the same progress I am here. I mean, I would not be able to keep my legs as active and stretch out as much, and just not be on the same quick recovery process that I am here, where it's as quick as you can be and making as much forward progress quickly. There's not many facilities like this, so I think it's super cool and people can come here and start making recovery.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest things why I kind of wanted to have you on the podcast today was just your overall mentality, post-injury, post-traumatic experience, whatever you want to call it. You're somebody who, like you said, you're just now 6 months post-injury. You're what I would say is 95% independent. You're driving yourself. You can take your chair wherever you want to go. You can get out. You can do almost everything yourself, right? And you have a mentality about you that it's kind of, I don't want to say acceptance, but you look at it as, this accident happened. I'm in this situation, but I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to do what I can. Can you talk about how you got there? Because I think from what I've experienced, it takes generally a long time for people to get to that point, but it seems like you've kind of gotten there rather quickly. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I went to Casa Colina and I'm at the hospital there, I see a lot of the people there with a lot of their injuries and stuff. And one of the biggest things that hit me when I was there is how grateful I was that I wasn't worse than I was, because there's people in a lot worse situations than me, particularly. So I was just wanting to be really grateful for that and thankful that I was still able to do a lot and was going to recover my upper body and start to become independent. Yeah, so like I said, growing up with my history of racing dirt bikes and what I wanted to do, I thought my purpose was racing dirt bikes, but I do believe everything does happen for a reason. So that's been a big part as well, just accepting that dirt bike racing might not have been my path that I thought it was. So I'm accepting that I have a different purpose, and now it's reset and move forward and start working towards that new purpose in life. And maybe it's helping people recover, or maybe I don't know. I haven't found it yet, so I'm working towards that, and I think that's been a big part of accepting that. Yes, I'm working towards recovery, but this may be reality. Like, it's no guaranteed. And also growing up, nothing. I always had worked. We always worked for what we want, and like being an athlete, you have to work to get better. And so I think that mentality helped as far as accepting and wanting to still just be independent. Basically, was like one of the biggest things that contributed to getting over it. Just moving forward and striving to be better every day.
You're a business owner in the retail, restaurant, hospitality, or petroleum industry. You have ambitious plans for multi-site remodels, refreshing your brand, and integrating the latest technology, but you need a partner you can trust to bring those visions to life. Enter Apex Imaging Services. With a legacy dating back to 1949, we've been at the forefront of innovation and transformation for over 7 decades. From licensed general contracting in 48 states to cutting-edge tech solutions, we've got you covered. Our services include everything from interior and exterior refreshes, open and closed remodels, and technology integrations, to 3D virtual tours, data analytics, and cloud security for Fortune 500 companies. But it's not just about what we do, it's how we do it. We're dedicated to quality, value, and efficiency. We listen to your needs, tailor solutions to your goals, and deliver results on time and on budget. So whether you're planning your next remodel, seeking to enhance your brand, or embracing the digital age, Apex Imaging Services is your partner for success. Visit apeximagingservices.com to learn more. Apex Imaging Services, your vision, our expertise.
One of the things that we also kind of talked about was how I was asking you, because you were a dirt bike racer, and not going to say I don't want to say it's common in that community, but it is a reality when you're racing dirt bikes that there is a particular amount of the population that does suffer an injury of some kind. And was that a reality kind of that you were living, where you're racing a dirt bike every day and you're going through these things, and like, oh, like this could be the last time I'm getting on the bike? And was that something that kind of you feel contributed to your ability to get past that grievance stage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to be aware, but when you're on the bike, those that process doesn't go through your mind. It can't. If you want to
Be good.
you will, yeah, if you want to be good, or if you want to stay injury free, because when you start losing focus, you'll be end up on the ground quick. But another thing that contributed to this accepting the reality of this injury was out of high school. Actually, backtrack, when I was 16, I raced for Blaze Racing race team. Blaze Racing Services had a team. Chris Blaze was the owner, and he was a dirt bike accident as well. He's a paraplegic from dirt bike crash. Similar scenario. He was factory Red Bull KTM, had been top of the world on a dirt bike, and then got had an abrupt stop with the same injury I had. And then moving forward, I was in high school, and my senior year of high school, I started working at a shop after school, and was around the injury, a lot of exposure, and it did not slow him down at all. He would do just about everything. I mean, rebuild motors, work on bikes, work on cars, run a successful business, and then I had a lot of exposure to what the injury was like and what he had to do. And so I think with that background, having seen what he was still capable of and the successful business he still had, as well as running a race team, having his own race shop, and then racing UTVs professionally, and having a second sort of career and racing path outside of dirt bikes and transferring into that, I think it's a lot of hope as well, and kind of inspiring that it's not over. So it's just to figure out the new purpose and the new plan and figure it out and go from there.
I think that was the same guy you were talking about that kind of led you to help you with the hand controls, right?
Yeah, all his vehicles and stuff when I was working there had the same hand control setup that I installed in my truck. So
Oh.
I'd played around with them before, so it was a little more natural than
Wasn't your first time?
Yeah, it wasn't my first time, so it came a little easier, and that helped with the transition stage too. I knew, yeah, throw them in my truck, let's go. I've already driven with them.
Yeah.
So, and the cool part about these hand controls is it leaves the gas and brake open to anyone that wants to. So I had, prior to driving his vehicles, I was able to use both and kind of feel it out and play around with them. So it was a little second nature when I threw them in my Maverick.
Yeah. What were like some of the things that you felt like you became more aware of when you were working for him? Because you kind of spoke about a little bit of working for somebody that's paraplegic and seeing him work on other dirt bikes or other motors. What were some things that you became aware of pretty instantly when you were a senior in high school?
So when I was working with him, I feel like I thought I knew a lot back then, but after being injured and being in the position, I realized I didn't know near as much as I thought I knew. Like there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes and a lot more struggles that most people don't get to see. But when you see someone in public, like you don't really think about a lot of the at home things or, behind the scenes struggles that go on because he's doing everything in the shop that I'm doing and doesn't look like he's just too many struggles. I mean, just the transferring into vehicles and grabbing your chair and, you hear about a lot of things, but you don't realize what people are going through until you get put in the situation. So I feel like I really learned a lot and I reflect on it a lot and look back now that I'm in the position that I understand where the frustrations came from with things and like the emotions that come with being in this position and this injury.
I think from what I've heard from you, not only the reality of the situation, but I think you might have taken away a little bit of his mentality of, you can still do things post injury. You were telling me in our session earlier, how was it yesterday you changed the oil in your car,
Yeah.
and then you changed the brakes in your girlfriend's car.
Yeah.
All those things that I think, like, I mean, I wouldn't even go. I don't even change the oil in my car, and you're doing all these things, and
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did it before. I want to do it now, so I'm just gonna get out of my chair and make it happen. Get on the ground and rolled around in a creeper, changed the oil in my truck, and did some brakes. I mean, I've worked on dirt bikes since, which is a little bit bittersweet, but it's what I love. I love dirt bikes, and I love working on them. That's what I did for work for a while too, is work on dirt bikes. So, yeah, it's just cool to be able to get back to what you're doing. It may not be the same, but you still can have the same involvement in the sport and do a lot of the same things where you feel that independence and still feel like you're able to do quite a bit. If you just put your mind to it, you're really capable.
Love it. Do you feel like that's in your future? Coming soon is working on dirt bikes, working on things, or
Yeah.
you see in your career?
Yeah, that's the hard part. I mean, prior to this, I didn't really have a lot of path. Besides, I knew I wanted to race dirt bikes and take it as far as I could and live the dream. So got abrupt stop to that and a reset, and now I've just got to figure it out. I've had some ideas, maybe working on bikes or getting into like design stuff or programming or something along those lines, in fabrication, or I'm not really sure yet. It's all kind of, I guess I'm still a fresh injury, so maybe I don't need to rush too much, but I want to figure it out sooner than later and get the ball rolling.
You definitely are. I mean, that's why we talked about you being so independent so quickly too. It's because 6 months to us, at least in this community, is very fresh. And 6 months is someone that we typically don't see a lot of clients come in after 6 months post injury.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems like you've had a lot of really good family and friends come along your whole way in your path too. Can you talk a little bit about friends and family pre versus post, and maybe who's been there, who hasn't been there, and things of that sort?
Yeah, well, I was super busy prior to injury. I feel like I wasn't at home too much. I was go, working on bikes, working construction, doing work, racing, riding, training, you name it. And then when I reset, I go back to, I'm not as busy. I'm at home more. I have a little bit, it kind of brings everyone together with the injury as well, because everyone has to come together, help out. And I think it's really hard for your family and friends too, going from being able to do a lot of the things together with your friends or with your family that you kind of have to put aside now, because at least when I was a fresh injury, I couldn't do. So I think it's really hard on the family, more than people think, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've touched on a good amount in the podcast, right? The injury, when something like that catastrophic doesn't, or when it happens, it's not just to you, it's to your entire community. But a good thing about that is when you do have a good community, a good support system, you feel that post-injury. Can you talk about the amount of support that you've been able to receive from your entire community post-injury?
Yeah, the support has been unbelievable. I mean, everyone stepped up. Everyone's looking for a way to help out, fundraise, make shirts, bracelets. Like anything you can think of, fundraise, donations. Everyone wants to reach out, and it's been super. And I think that was a big part of recovery as well. The positivity that was around me with my family, friends, social media, articles, videos people posted, everything all kind of comes together and helps you keep that positive mindset. And I think that was a big part in, like you guys said, of accepting this, and 6 months in, being able to kind of move forward and work towards bettering myself still. I don't have much to complain about. I feel like with the amount of support that I got, I'm grateful for that.
Is there any particular people that you want to kind of give thanks to, or that you would say helped get you to that point that you were able to become independent or have this certain amount of acceptance that you do have?
Family, of course, my girlfriend, other people in wheelchairs, Mike Young, Chris Blaze, people that have been in the situation that kind of can reach out. Kyle Carpenter was a coworker of mine that he had the same thing. He was a lower injury. He was in like a L2 injury, and he walks now and is able body and has a job. He's a nurse. So all these people that just kind of come together, all my good friends, my close friends, are willing to help with whatever, whether it's setting up my truck or grabbing things for me or helping reorganize stuff for me. Like, everyone just comes together, and it's been great, and I wouldn't have been able to do all this without them.
It's amazing. You have a great support system, man. That's fantastic.
Plays a big part in that.
Yeah. What are some things? Because you talked a little about fundraising and about donations, and where are maybe some places that people can go if they wanted to donate or wanted to fundraise for your recovery?
Yeah, Road to Recovery Foundation, they have all their athletes' causes on their page. You can find my fundraising on that page. And then we had a couple other things, people that fundraised. Hero Baja Racing Team, they were a race team down in Mexico that raced the Score International Series. The team that I was on last year, they had a fundraiser ride for me, so that was cool. And then just everyone has chipped in, but the biggest place to reach out and donate, if anyone wanted to look into that, would be Road to Recovery, and there's lots of other athletes in need as well.
Very selfless.
Check it out. Leave a
Even-
link down below.
Yeah, we will. But I think just even hearing, when we ask about where people can help you, the first thing you do is, you can also help all these other people.
Yeah.
So I think that shows something about your character and why people are so willing and wanting to help you along with your
appreciate it.
process. Yeah, of course. Can you talk a little bit about the relationships that you've had with family? Your relationship with your parents pre and post, your relationship with your brother over there, even, as far as you want to go into your personal relationships. Can you talk about how those have changed pre and post injury?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I was busy, so I think it was a good reset, and I was able to get closer with everyone, spend more time with my brother, with my sister, with my mom and dad, even my girlfriend, get to just have a little bit more one-on-one, and everyone's emotional side kind of comes out of them, so everyone kind of gets closer with each other, and it's been cool to see. I think it's been good for me to kind of, I don't want to say open my eyes, but step back and reset and just enjoy family time and quality time with people and be close with all your close friends and family.
Have you done anything recently and gone anywhere or done anything with your family? That was fun.
Yeah, I've been everywhere. I've been to the river a couple times with my friends and my girlfriend. We went on a trip to San Diego, camping trip with my dad. I mean, you name it. If it's an opportunity to go, I'm there. We'll figure it out and make it happen. So try not to let it hold us back. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of trips in the near future.
For sure. Can you walk us through maybe like a day in your life?
Yeah.
Wake up, maybe you're getting ready for therapy, whatever you're going to do for that day. Can you kind of walk us through just a normal day in your life?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I enjoy about coming to Perfect Step is it gives you a purpose with your day, and I feel like that's been a big part too. It's accepting the injury, because without coming here, my days I don't have much to do almost. I wake up, I go to the gym, but there's not a lot of incentive for me to get up and try to be productive. Like, I don't have a job at the moment. I don't have any set schedule or routine with my day. I just kind of end up being lazier than I would like to be some days. So I enjoy the days that I wake up, have an early trip down the hill to come here to Perfect Step and start my day out with therapy, go back home, get some lunch, go to the gym. Usually end up in my evening, I do my nightly routine, shower and all that. Yeah, just hang out, watch some TV, maybe play some games. I started playing video games now that I've had more time on my free time on my hands. I don't know what to do with myself, so that's been cool too. Just a little more relaxing time for myself. And yeah, honestly, I don't have a lot to do with my day at the moment, so I look forward to building on creating a future and just having a little more direction with my days.
Welcome to The Perfect Step, a beacon of hope for those living with paralysis. We're not just another recovery program, we're pioneers in exercise-based recovery, transforming lives every day. Our mission is clear: to provide an improved quality of life through intense exercise-based recovery, education, research, and development. We treat conditions such as spinal cord injury, stroke, Parkinson's, and more. What sets us apart? Our clients often experience an improved level of function, sometimes even below their entry level. Imagine the possibilities when exercise is medicine. We're wheelchair-free, focusing on load-bearing activities to enhance function, bone density, muscle mass, sensation, and circulation. And it doesn't stop there. Our clients often reduce their medications and complications. But we're not just a program. We're a community of support. You'll meet peers who understand your journey, along with specialists dedicated to your recovery. Visit theperfectstep.com today and take the first step toward hope, health, and healing. The Perfect Step, where recovery begins.
I know you don't have a exact direction or path that you know you want to take right now, but if you were to, guess what your career path or what job you kind of get into, or even where you would be 5 years down the road, where would Clayton Roberts be and what would he be doing?
I'd say most likely the ideal would be some sort of business owner in the racing world. I mean, that's racing in my blood, like we've talked about. So I think it's kind of inevitable that it'll be something motorsports related or any sports for that matter. I mean, that's kind of what I enjoy doing, the competitive side of things. So I think it'd be cool if I could figure something out along those lines, or even if it's not a business owner, just playing a role in some sort of racing and enjoying that aspect still. That even if I'm not racing, I really do enjoy just being at the races and the atmosphere behind it. So I think that'll be where I'll be in 5 years if I had to guess.
And again, like I said, I'm kind of ignorant about the racing world. Do they have commentators? Could you see yourself doing something like that, commentating races or being a racing coach or something along those lines?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that do like riding coaching, or again, there's commentators for like professional racing. They have commentators. A lot of retired pros end up transferring into that or into a job in the industry. So I definitely think it could be in the cards for the future. If the opportunity arose, I might as well jump on it.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely well spoken and
Thank you.
you're not
Right.
camera shy by any means. So I think I could definitely see that in your career path. So
Yeah, I think it could be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be fun for sure.
And your brother races too, right?
Yeah, my
So-
brother races.
dad races.
Dad races, yeah.
Okay.
Very nice.
And then your girlfriend is a part of the racing community as well, correct?
Yeah, her family owns a race series, SRA Racing, and so that's actually how we met, was through that series. So we're both around it. I'm sure it'll be inevitable to have some sort of racing in the future.
Yeah. What was your first educational resource that you researched into when you first got injured? Let's say you went to Google or a podcast, or you asked somebody that you knew that was close to you. What were some of the best resources that you had originally, and what do you have now?
I would say the first resource was just reaching out. I started by talking to Mike Young. My first week in the hospital, I was kind of on a lot of medication and not really doing much researching, but my parents were definitely on top of it and had a lot of talks with Mike, and so that was a good base as far as learning about the injury. And then just Googling on my phone, I had a lot of people trying to talk about stem cell stuff, so I was doing a lot of research about that and reading just you name it on Google, just looking up like my injury level, T11, complete, incomplete, learning like exactly trying to figure out what I was, if like what a burst fracture was, and just trying to educate myself a little more, because you think you know about something until you're like really taxed with the subject. And I realized I didn't know as much as I thought, so it was just time to buckle down, do a little bit of research, and see what I was working with.
All right, then can you go into a little bit more depth about, finding out that you were a burst fracture, what that meant, what the story you were told from the doctors was when that was your experience?
Yeah, so I was a T11 burst fracture, and I first heard that I didn't exactly know, but the simplest way to put it, like when my understanding was the T11 vertebrae basically burst like a grenade, and bone fragments went through my spinal cord and essentially cut the connection of the wires down my back to send in connection of nerves to my lower extremities. And the doctor told me it was highly unlikely to ever walk again. So that was the initial understanding of what it was. And as I'm working here at the Perfect Step, I was told I was a complete injury. It was the first thing the doctor told me. And when you hear that, you kind of think, oh, I guess that's it. But I'm starting to learn it might not be a complete injury like I thought I was. And so it's kind of cool to work on what I have and build off of it, because if there's a little connection, I think there's a way to make it happen in the future.
Yeah. Sounded like, I mean, you were just talking a little bit about it earlier about you hip flexing.
Yeah, definitely have a little bit of hip flexion I'm
Yeah.
working towards, and my legs have a decent amount of energy when we're working with them, and kind of I have a relatively strong core, and since I have core, and kind of use that to my advantage and moving my legs, and
Yeah.
I just try to take advantage of if my legs are spasming, I'm mentally doing the same thing as the spasm, and might as well take advantage of movement and try to train the brain to follow that path.
Do you have any goals right now?
I mean, the obvious goal is I'd love to walk. I think another goal I have is to be probably get back on a bike in the near future and maybe some sort of racing. Probably not on a dirt bike, but maybe a race car of some sort. I think that'd be a goal. Definitely get that itch for sure to race. So I'm sure I'll be. I think that's a goal is to race again and maybe ride a dirt bike and might as well walk too.
It's awesome.
Love it. You were talking a little bit about adaptive bikes.
Mhm.
Can you go in a little bit more depth about that?
I didn't really see too much of them like prior to my injury, but after injury, you start researching and finding people. And there's actually quite a bit of people in the adaptive community that have some pretty legit bike setups with like button shifters and stuff that you can't shift with your feet, and a cage around your legs and everything. And some people rock a cage, like a bar over the top of their head and stuff to protect if they were to crash and go over the bars again and land on their head, they're protected. So it's pretty cool with some of how fast some people are able to ride and how talented the adapted riders are still. And I think it's a bright future for that community, and I'm looking forward to maybe trying it out and at least getting back to enjoying that same passion of dirt bike racing and riding.
What was the company out of Colorado that you were kind of telling me about?
Yeah, so I was looking into it more, and a lot of people do their first riding again after injury through a nonprofit called Moto Redemption, and they give people in wheelchairs the opportunity to get their redemption on a dirt bike, and so it's super cool. I'll probably be reaching out to them shortly and seeing about getting my bike adapted and getting back to the track and enjoying the track instead of just spectating like I have been for the past 6 months.
That'd be cool. Are
Yeah.
there any, so is that class its own class? Is there an adaptive motocross riding, or how does that work?
Well, they had what was called extremity games, and it was for adaptive more than just people that were paralyzed, but like amputees and stuff. They had X Games basically for disabled riders, and so that was cool. I don't think they do too much of that now, and most people that are adapted, they just race everyone and anyone. They don't care.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. But it would be cool if they brought back something like extremity games where it's like X Games for amputees or disabled riders that will still want to go racing. So I think that'd be pretty cool if they bring that back to get into that.
I'm not sure if you'll even know this, but the Paralympics were just on. Is there anything like that in the Paralympics? Whether dirt bikes or bicycles at all, or
Good question.
Yeah, not for adaptive riders. They don't have anything that nature, but they do have like sort of Olympic style motocross racing where there's actually coming up. It's called the Motocross of Nations, where 3 riders from every country and the top 3 from each country get chosen and they all go race. So that's super cool to watch. But maybe if the adaptive community continues to grow, maybe we'll be lucky enough to get something like that too and go race for Team USA.
yeah, no, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, never know.
What is one simple tip that you would give somebody who just entered the paralysis community? Somebody that maybe they're just going through the injury process. Let's say they're just getting out of inpatient or outpatient rehab center. What is one simple tip that you would give them to help them along their journey?
And I'm going to add a little bit to that. What is one simple tip you would give them for the physical aspect of the recovery, but also from the mental capacity?
I would say just be a sponge and listen to your therapist for one. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions and kind of be in your own little world and not fully listening to what you're being taught. But if you can just really listen and put your best foot forward and learn, and then not be afraid to get out and use the skills you've learned and get out in the real world and like out in public, I should say, and just get back to what you're doing, you'll be very happy you're back out and being independent, or just even something simple like going to the store, and you'll be glad you did.
You mentioned a lot about learning today. I love it, like being a sponge, learning, and lifelong learner all the time. And
Yeah.
I definitely live by those words a lot. Where does that come from for you? What is it about learning that you love so much, and what is it about learning that keeps you moving forward?
Just growing up wanting to be the best, and the competitive nature in my family, and kind of like what my dad taught me, just always learning from him, and just take advantage of this people around you and surround yourself with good people, and you can learn a lot if you really want to excel, and you take what people are saying and you listen to people with a lot of experience and knowledge. You'll learn a lot, and it's very easy to move forward and better yourself.
Definitely.
I love how you connect the two things of being competitive to learning, right? It's
I feel like they go hand in hand.
absolutely. I think, as competitive people, but also people who come from a background of trying to be a lifelong learner. Like you said, they just go hand in hand, and I think not everybody puts those two things together. They don't make that correlation to the fact that you were able to do so, but also be able to apply that to your recovery process is so big.
And even if you're not competitive, I think it's important to just want to better yourself and be healthy, and that also goes hand in hand with learning, because you're not gonna be able to better yourself without learning from other people or researching or anything of that nature.
Becoming the best version of yourself.
For sure.
Absolutely. Around the perfect step, we've been focusing on how people are reinventing themselves. Can you talk a little bit either about you or how you've seen somebody reinvent themselves?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still in the process of reinventing myself out, but like going back to who I worked for before, my boss Chris Blaze, and reinventing. He didn't not necessarily reinventing, but he transferred from dirt bike racing to the UTV world and continued his business. And then same with Mike Young. He was also a dirt bike racer that got hurt, and now he's helping out in the community and reinvented and found his purpose. And his purpose is to help people, and he does a great job because he's been helping me a lot. So I think I'm still working towards reinventing myself, but looking forward to see what the future holds.
Let me shout out Mike Young too. He helps a
thank you,
lot
Mike
of people.
Young.
Yeah.
A lot of people,
Absolutely.
especially here at TPS, and I'm sure all around the community. So.
Road to recovery, and everything else that he helps with. So thank you, Mike Young, and thank you, Clayton, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and
I
your
enjoyed it.
experience.
Yeah, it was a good time. Thank you guys for
We should
having
have
me.
you, brother.
Yeah.
We'll be back on soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Clayton.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did.
If you found today's episode to be valuable, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and feel free to leave a review by clicking the link in the description below.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or topics you'd like for us to cover in upcoming episodes, you can go to our website under the tab Pathways to Healing and fill out the form.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another engaging conversation giving insight into the paralysis community.
Until then, keep inspiring, stay resilient, and roll on.
These are your hosts, Cody Norman
and Logan Frye,
signing off.